From 1996 to 2005, the city of Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, China, was gripped by terror as a series of mysterious murders unfolded, spreading fear and panic among its residents. This period marked a horrifying crime spree involving 11 women. Most of the victims were assaulted before being murdered. The killer acted with extreme brutality, using various methods, including strangulation, drowning, or stabbing with sharp weapons, causing severe injuries. All these heinous crimes were committed by a single individual, known as the Smiling Killer Zhao Zhihong. Even more shocking, the police hastily convicted an innocent man to appease public outcry. It was not until 18 years later that his name was cleared, but he never had the chance to reclaim his life. You are watching a true story. Let's uncover the dark secrets and thrilling details you have never heard before. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join us in today's story. Zhao Zhihong was born on September 5, 1972, into a poor farming family in a remote village in Inner Mongolia, China. The area where he grew up had harsh living conditions, scarce resources, a difficult livelihood, and a sparse population. Zhao Zhihong's family had many children, and his parents were too busy making a living to pay much attention to their kids. Not only did he lack material wealth, but he also grew up in a violent household. His father was rough-tempered, quick to anger, and frequently took his frustrations out on his wife and children. Villagers did not have a strong impression of Zhao Zhihong, only remembering him as a quiet, distant child who avoided others. Meanwhile, the village children feared and avoided him due to his strange and unpredictable behavior. From a young age, Zhao Zhihong exhibited signs of psychological instability. He enjoyed playing with small animals, but instead of caring for them, he tortured them mercilessly. He was once caught using a fishing line to kill animals and then hanging their bodies from trees. This behavior is considered a typical sign of conduct disorder and latent violent tendencies. During his school years, Zhao Zhihong's academic performance was mediocre and unremarkable. However, due to poor grades and an eccentric personality, he was often isolated and mocked by classmates. Classmates described him as an odd, quiet person who often sat alone during breaks. He also had occasional outbursts of anger, sometimes becoming aggressive and losing control. Zhao Zhihong's unusual behavior did not go unnoticed by teachers. They often complained about his lack of socialization, tendency to withdraw, and occasional negative remarks about life. However, no one truly cared to investigate the underlying causes, leading to a lack of intervention or support. A significant incident occurred when Zhao Zhihong was just 10 years old. He was caught trying to steal his teacher's wallet. A classmate quickly reported it. However, when the teacher arrived, Zhao Zhihong immediately pretended to be obedient and remorseful to avoid punishment. Without concrete evidence of theft, the teacher could only issue a warning. At the age of 16, Zhao Zhihong dropped out of school completely, with no career prospects, and began roaming aimlessly. He worked odd jobs but never held a position for long. Partly due to petty theft and partly due to his temper and difficulty socializing, he frequently clashed with colleagues and was repeatedly fired. Not only did he struggle with work, but his life was also unstable, with no fixed residence. He drifted from place to place, surviving on short-term manual labor. However, instead of trying to stabilize his life, he became increasingly isolated from society, sinking deeper into a negative lifestyle. In 1995, Zhao Zhihong was arrested for theft and served a short prison sentence. However, his time in prison did not make him repent. On the contrary, it made him even more reckless and dangerous. He frequently caused conflicts, displayed a defiant attitude towards fellow inmates and prison guards, revealing his increasingly violent nature. After being released from prison, Zhao Zhihong continued his aimless wandering, with no goals, no permanent residence, and completely lost direction in life. He harbored deep hatred towards society, especially women. In Zhao Zhihong's eyes, they were the ones who despised, avoided, and always rejected him. Rumors spread that in the past, Zhao Zhihong had been brutally rejected by a woman, leaving him humiliated and fueling a deep resentment. From then on, he developed the idea of controlling and dominating women through violence as a way to assert himself. By 1996, his hatred had completely consumed his rationality. This was also the year Zhao Zhihong committed his first murder. That year, Zhao Zhihong was only 24 years old. On September 5, 1996, Zhao Zhihong broke into a public restroom at a textile factory in Hohhot. There, he encountered a female worker named Wang who was on the night shift. Driven by his twisted thoughts, Zhao Zhihong pulled out a knife and brutally attacked her. After the victim collapsed, he did not stop. Instead, he proceeded to assault her lifeless body before fleeing the scene. The murder sent shockwaves through the community, putting immense pressure on the local authorities to find the culprit quickly. To close the case quickly, just 2 days later, the police arrested an 18-year-old named Hohhot, a young worker who lived near the scene. Although there was no direct evidence or clear motive, the police used harsh interrogation tactics to force him to confess simply because he had been near the area that night. Just over a month later, on October 13, 1996, Hohhot was put on trial. On November 20, 1996, Hohhot was sentenced to death and immediately executed by firing squad. The case was declared solved. The investigators were praised by their superiors, while the real murderer remained free. In reality, the real culprit was Zhao Zhihong. After killing the female worker, he continued his life as usual, never suspected or investigated. At 7 p.m. on May 19, 1996, as night fell, a small inn in Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, was eerily silent. The innkeeper, a middle-aged woman, was tidying up when suddenly, the door burst open. Zhao Zhihong appeared, holding a knife, his eyes cold and menacing. He rushed inside, threatening the woman with the knife and demanding money. Panic was evident on her face. She did not dare resist. However, when Zhao became momentarily distracted, she tried to fight back and screamed for help. This caused Zhao to lose control. He swung the knife at her, inflicting severe wounds on her shoulder and chest. She collapsed to the floor as a pool of blood spread across the surface. After the attack, he rummaged through her belongings, stole some cash, and quickly fled the scene. The victim survived but sustained severe injuries and had to be hospitalized. Due to a lack of clear evidence, the case was classified as an unresolved robbery. One evening in August 1996, Zhao Zhihong wandered through the deserted streets of Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, looking for a target. As he passed through a secluded area, he spotted a young couple on a date in the darkness. The girl, surnamed Song, was beautiful and youthful. Zhao Zhihong silently followed them from a distance, observing every move she made. When her boyfriend left, leaving her alone, he immediately approached. He blocked her path, his voice cold and calculating. "I saw everything you and your boyfriend just did. If you don't want me to tell everyone, you'd better do as I say." Terrified, Song tried to escape, but Zhao quickly grabbed her arm and dragged her into a hidden corner. He used force, continuously threatening and overpowering the victim. Cornered, she desperately cried and begged, but all her efforts were in vain. After satisfying his vile desires, he coldly abandoned her in utter terror, then disappeared into the darkness as if he had never existed. Too frightened and ashamed, she did not dare report the incident to the police, allowing the case to fade into silence. In the winter of 1996, as the cold enveloped the city of Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, Zhao Zhihong set his sights on a small barbershop hidden deep within a deserted alley. Pretending to be a late customer, he politely knocked on the door, asking to come in for a haircut. As soon as the female shop owner turned her back to grab her tools, Zhao Zhihong suddenly lunged at her from behind, covering her mouth, grabbing her wrists tightly, and forcing her onto the floor, ignoring her desperate struggles. The victim struggled, trying to fight back, but Zhao was already experienced in subduing women. After committing his brutal act, Zhao Zhihong did not stop. In that moment, a cold thought flashed through his mind. If he let the victim live, she would report him. That meant he would be caught, imprisoned, and locked behind bars. Without hesitation, Zhao grabbed the victim's neck with his hands, but she kept struggling desperately. Seeing this, he grabbed a pair of scissors from the table and mercilessly stabbed her in the chest and neck until her body stopped moving. After killing the shop owner, Zhao calmly cleaned the crime scene, took some money from the drawer, and fled. No one noticed anything unusual until the next morning, when a customer arrived and found the shop's door wide open. Inside, a horrifying scene awaited. Based on the faint traces left at the scene, the police found no witnesses or surveillance footage. The clues were too weak, causing the investigation to quickly reach a dead end. After this crime, Zhao Zhihong disappeared for 2 years without committing another offense. After 2 years in hiding, by September 1998, Zhao Zhihong committed another shocking crime. This time, his targets were not only solitary women, but also children, exploiting their innocence to carry out his cruel acts. On a lightly rainy evening, in a quiet residential area of Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, Zhao Zhihong spotted a young mother walking home with her 5-year-old son. Seeing an opportunity, he silently followed them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the woman unlocked the door and stepped inside, Zhao suddenly lunged from behind, forcefully pushing the door shut and locking it. Before the victim could react, he quickly restrained the child with a sharp object, sending the mother into sheer panic. Holding the child tightly, his cold voice echoed in the cramped room. "If you don't do as I say, your son will suffer immediately." The young mother collapsed in fear, tears streaming down her face as she begged for mercy, but Zhao remained emotionless, unmoved by her pleas. He dragged her into the bedroom, forcing her to comply. Driven by the fear of losing her child, she had no choice but to obey his demands. After committing his crime, Zhao did not kill anyone. He simply smirked with satisfaction, took some money, and left quickly. The young mother, too terrified and concerned for her child's safety, chose to remain silent and did not report the crime to the police. This allowed Zhao to continue roaming free, but this was only one of the many horrifying crimes he committed. Ahead, an even more terrifying crime was about to unfold. On the morning of May 20th, 2000, as the sunlight stretched across the vast fields of Saihan District, Hohhot, Zhao Zhihong aimlessly wandered along a deserted path. On the surface, he appeared absent-minded, but deep inside, a twisted hunger was stirring within him. He had committed many crimes before, but this time he craved a new experience, something he had never tried before. As he walked past a small house, he suddenly stopped, drawn by a clear and innocent voice coming from inside. A little girl with rosy cheeks was playing alone in the yard. Her voice was high-pitched, naive, and full of life. In Zhao's twisted mind, a dangerous thought emerged. "I have never approached a child before. I must find a way." He silently hid behind a corner, carefully observing through a gap in the door. His eyes scanned the surroundings. There were no adults at home. A perfect opportunity had just presented itself. Zhao Zhihong quickly adjusted his facial expression, altering his posture to appear friendly and harmless. He walked up to the gate and knocked, speaking in a gentle tone. "I've walked too far and I'm very thirsty, little one. Could you give me a glass of water?" The little girl, unsuspecting, smiled innocently and quickly ran inside the house to pour a glass of water. She then casually opened the door and handed him the glass, completely unaware of the looming danger. The moment she handed him the water, Zhao Zhihong suddenly pushed the door forcefully, slamming it shut. Startled, the girl stepped back, her eyes filled with confusion. Before her, the man's smile twisted, transforming into a cold and sinister expression. He acted immediately, grabbing the girl, covering her mouth, and pulling her inside. She struggled in terror, but there was no time to react. The door closed, swallowing all sound into the eerie silence. After committing his heinous act, he stood up, coldly observing the trembling girl as tears streamed down her flushed cheeks. "Uncle, please let me go. I won't tell anyone." Zhao Zhihong stared at her for a long time, his eyes devoid of emotion. Then he pulled her up and silently led her outside. In front of the girl was a large water tank. Without hesitation, he held her firmly and pushed her head underwater, not letting go until the ripples faded and the surface became still. After killing his victim, Zhao Zhihong left the village without anyone knowing what had just happened. That afternoon, the girl's parents returned home, but she did not run out to greet them, as usual. A deep sense of unease crept into their hearts. They rushed inside, frantically searching everywhere. And when they looked into the water tank in the yard, they let out heartbreaking cries. The police quickly arrived after receiving the report but found no traces of the perpetrator. Based on the details of each case and the continuous timeline of the crimes, the police noticed suspicious similarities. They began to suspect that these were not isolated incidents, but a series of interconnected crimes, and the person behind them might be the same individual. The townspeople were restless, fearing that the killer was still lurking somewhere and could strike again at any moment. For nearly 9 years, Zhao Zhihong continued his attacks and murders, yet he remained at large, evading the police. However, the crime committed on January 2, 2005 became a turning point, bringing Zhao Zhihong into the police's sights. Around 11 p.m. on the streets of Hohhot, Ms. Zhang had just finished her shift and stood at the roadside waiting for a taxi home. Less than 15 minutes later, a taxi with the license plate Meng JY2230 appeared. She waved her hand, and the car slowly pulled up in front of her. The driver was a seemingly simple man who appeared friendly and welcoming. He quickly got out, helped Miss Zhang open the car door, and even cheerfully offered her a discount. Smiling, he said, "It's freezing out here. It must be tough standing alone on the street in this cold." The driver's kindness reassured Miss Zhang. Without any suspicion, she opened the door and got into the car. At first, Miss Zhang thought she was lucky to have met such a kind driver. But as the car turned onto increasingly darker and more deserted roads, a sense of unease began to creep over her. She panicked when she realized she was being taken to an unfamiliar place. Miss Zhang's voice trembled as she spoke. "Where are you going? This isn't the way to the city center." The driver no longer looked friendly. His expression completely changed, revealing a cold and sinister aura. He glanced at her through the rearview mirror and sneered, "You'll find out soon enough." The car stopped in the middle of a deserted forest. Zhao Zhihong approached Ms. Zhang, threatening her before committing his assault. After his crime, he did not kill her immediately, but casually drove back onto the main road as if nothing had happened. Miss Zhang, now in utter despair, pleaded, "Please, let me go." Zhao Zhihong responded coldly, "Don't be afraid, you'll be free soon." At that moment, Ms. Zhang realized she was on the brink of death. As the car approached a curve, Ms. Zhang, in a desperate panic, flung the door open, leaped out, and ran as fast as she could, not daring to look back. The taxi sped away, vanishing into the night. After calming herself, Ms. Zhang immediately went to the police station to report the incident. The police quickly checked the license plate, Meng JY2230, she provided. The results surprised the police. The taxi was completely legal, and the owner was a woman named Chen Mo. However, Miss Zhang was certain that the driver was a man. At that moment, an officer happened to glance at a report received earlier that morning. A female body had been found by the roadside. The victim was identified as Chen Mo, the registered owner of the taxi, Meng JY2230. Further investigation revealed that Chen Mo had been murdered the night before. She had been tied up, assaulted, and strangled with a thin object, causing asphyxiation. Her taxi had been stolen and used by the killer. Evidence from the crime scene showed that the suspect's DNA matched multiple unsolved cases from the past. Within just 50 days, 4 consecutive murders had occurred in a town of only 20,000 people. Given the urgency of the situation, the police immediately formed a special task force and named the case the 2.25 assault and robbery case. The key to solving the case lay with the sole survivor, Ms. Zhang. Based on her memory, she described the suspect as follows. A man around 27 years old, approximately 1.67 meters tall. He had a thin face, arched eyebrows, triangular eyes, and a small mouth. His voice had a distinct Hohhot accent, making it easily recognizable. Based on the information provided by Ms. Zhang, the police created a sketch of the suspect. Shortly after, a nationwide manhunt was launched, with a 200,000 yuan reward for any information leading to his capture. After 7 months of fruitless searching, the police finally received a crucial tip. On October 8, 2005, a village chief in Xincheng district, Hohhot, happened to see the suspect's sketch on the news. After examining it closely, he felt the face was familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Without hesitation, he contacted the police with the information. The man in the sketch was named Zhao Zhihong, a former temporary worker in the area. He had previously worked at a private kindergarten in the area and had a criminal record for theft. If Zhao Zhihong had been in prison before, there would be official records, which could help confirm his identity and facilitate the investigation. They decided to reopen old unsolved cases, hoping to find connections leading them closer to identifying the culprit. As expected, when reviewing previous case files, the police were shocked to discover that dozens of past unsolved murders bore the same suspect's signature. After comparing fingerprints and DNA evidence left at previous crime scenes with Zhao Zhihong's records, they found a perfect match. The police confirmed that Zhao Zhihong was the serial killer responsible for the numerous murders. On October 23, 2005, the police arrested Zhao Zhihong in Hohhot. On January 5, 2015, during his trial, Zhao admitted to committing over 20 crimes between 1996 and 2005, including 11 murders and 10 assaults, 2 of which involved minors. Additionally, he was responsible for multiple cases of robbery, theft, and property fraud. The most controversial revelation was that Zhao Zhihong confessed to murdering the female worker surnamed Wang in 1996. However, that case had previously been attributed to Hohhot, an 18-year-old who had been wrongly convicted and executed before the truth came to light. On July 30, 2019, Zhao was sentenced to death and immediately executed. The case closed with widespread public approval. Many believed the sentence was well-deserved for the horrors he had committed. The victims' families expressed their sorrow, but also felt some solace knowing that justice had been served. Thank you for following this story. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more terrifying and mysterious crime cases. No matter how frightening, the truth must always be told to uphold justice.